Good morning and welcome to another week of Coastlands Church Online. We are so glad that you've been able to join us this morning.
Tonight we have our Coastlands quiz, so make sure you tune into that. The details for that are going to go out this afternoon. It's going to be a lot of fun and it'll be so lovely to see some other faces.
Remember, on Wednesday evening we continue with our prayer meeting. That will be at 7:30. Look out for the WhatsApps by Pastor Alistair to get you in touch with that.
Also this week, look out for our thought for Tuesdays and Thursdays, our devotions that will be going out. The details of those will go out on Facebook and you can connect through that into YouTube as well.
Thank you for continuing to give. If you would like to get involved in that, please check out the website and follow the link.
If there's anything that we can do for you at this time, please just let us know and get in touch. Let's enjoy church together this morning.
Hi everyone. Join with us in worship today. Let's do this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let your glory fall, your spirit move, your kingdom come, our lives renew. Jesus, oh Jesus, we abandon ourselves to the great I am. Behold the cross, behold the Lamb. Jesus, Jesus, let your glory fall, your spirit move, your kingdom come, our lives renew. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus,
So today's Big Sunday, and on our Big Sunday series, we look at the tagline, Jesus can change your life if you let him. And we've been looking at a series the last couple of weeks about miracles in the house. And today we're going to merge those two things together, and we're going to hear a story that brings those two things together about Jesus changing your life and miracles in the house. So we've got Rhiannon with us this morning. So hello, Rhiannon. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Rhiannon. I am Alistair's younger sister. And I have two boys. I'm a single mom of two boys, Ethan, who's 14, and Isaac, who's 11. And I'm a teacher, and I go to Portadown Elim Church.
Okay. Life took a difficult turn a number of years ago. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, in February 2018, I randomly woke up one morning with no feeling in my left leg. It was numb, it was dragging, I couldn't lift it, it was ice cold. And later that evening, I was admitted into hospital, needing an MRI of the brain and of the spine. There were questions over brain tumours, spine tumours, MS, stroke, and all those sorts of things. Throughout my stay in hospital over that weekend, the numbness spread to my left hand and my left arm, and I lost all functionality of it as well. After having the MRI scan, they thought they had saw a small area of inflammation at the top of the spine, which may have been caused by a viral infection. And so after a week, I was discharged with the hope of it returning with a bit of medication and things like that, and some physio.
Okay. And were you scared at this point, being a mom, having a job? Was it scary?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I wasn't able to walk very well. I wasn't able to walk any distance without any walking aid like crutches or a walking stick. That had a massive impact on being able to perform day-to-day routines and activities and things like that. I was off work for quite some time. And yeah, so there was a lot of questions of what was the future going to hold. Would I regain functionality, and what was going to happen? But one of the verses I really clung to during that time was Jeremiah 29 verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future.
Yeah.
And so I clung to that, and being a Christian and knowing that God has a plan for us and sees the bigger picture of our lives, that definitely gave me hope and gave me strength during that time. And then there was one significant night at Wondrous Bible Week where I really felt God challenge me to really trust him, regardless of what the outcome was going to be in my situation and within my health, whether that he would heal me or whether he wouldn't, or and would I give him my yes? Would I still trust him in the midst of the situation I found myself in? And so yeah, given that yes was a bit of a struggle, but I decided that's the safest place, because God's will and God's plan for our lives is the safest place for us to be. And so I gave God my yes. And that evening as I went home, I'd been reading Acts in my own time, and that night it was Acts chapter 3, and it is the story of the lame beggar sitting at the beautiful gate. And during that time, reading that story, I felt the Holy Spirit prompt me to look at the meaning of the beautiful gate. And so the Greek translation means, or the Greek word is horeos, and the translation of that not only just means lovely and fair, but it also means happening at the right time or the ripening time. And from that, I didn't believe that God was saying, well, in right time, I'm going to heal you. But I felt that he was saying that he would provide for me all that I would need at the right time, and that he would equip me at the right time. So I think even during all of those struggles that I faced, I just trusted God and tried to do that. And it was very much a daily choice and a daily activity of handing over my life to God every day and trusting him for what I needed in that day.
Yeah. And at this point, what were the medical people saying? What were they saying that was going on in your body?
Basically, I was having some neurophysio to train me how to walk again and regain strength in my left hand. And the neurologist had given a diagnosis of functional neurological disorder with possible inflammatory. So the physio had explained that there was still a possibility that this may develop into MS.
Okay.
So that was sort of something that was always lingering, as a question over the top of it. And I would make steps of progress regaining some strength in my hand and my leg, but then something would attack the immune system, like a chest infection or throat infection, and then I relapsed, and I would have gone right back to the very beginning and losing all functionality again. So it was a bit of a roller coaster in that, but as I kept taking those relapses, the medical profession were saying basically that to prepare myself for more investigations. They also had told me that a third of people would fully recover from this, a third of people would partially recover, and a third of people wouldn't recover at all. And so whenever it came to a year of constant relapses and things like that, the physio had felt that she had done enough, all that she could do for me at that time. So she felt that I was going to be in this middle bracket, basically, of partially regaining functionality of my leg and my arm.
Yeah. And then there was a day that something changed, something happened. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so the week that the physio basically told me that, she gave me one more appointment, which was going to be in the August, in the hope that a little bit of a break during the summer, I may progress during that time being off work. And so then on this Sunday, we had David Legg. Some of you may have heard of him. So we had David Legg come to our church, and he was speaking on healing, and there was going to be a healing line and stuff as well for there. But he actually got up that morning and started to speak on Acts chapter 3. And so during his speaking, I started to question, God, is this significant? Are you going to do something here today in my life? And I just sat back and listened, and then at the end of the service I went forward for prayer, and David Legg prayed with me and anointed me with oil. And after he prayed, he said, well, let's test this, let's see. So obviously there was a bit of nerves coming from that. I was a bit nervous, thinking I don't feel anything different, my leg and my hand and still feel exactly the same. I didn't feel any radical feelings, going on in my body or anything that had changed. And so I was a bit dubious, but anyway, we tested, and one of the neurological tests for my hand was to put my two fingers like this, or someone would put their two fingers like this, and I was to squeeze and grab hold. My left hand never was able to squeeze properly. And as I started to squeeze David's hand, it was a sensation came down my arm, and it was just like something released, or like the muscles just released in my hand. And I began to be able to squeeze until I was able to squeeze both his fingers at exactly the same level. Then we tested my leg, and I was never able to weight bear on my left leg on its own. And I stood there balancing on one leg for quite a significant length of time. And then one of the other things that we did to test was, it had been quite evident to the rest of the church. I was on the worship team that morning, so I had struggled getting up and down the steps on the platform that morning. And we just thought, let's try this and see. So forgetting about the steps, I just started jumping up and down on and off the platform. And hadn't been able to do that in a year and a half. And it was just incredible, just the radical difference. Within a week, I was able to run, and then went back in the August to go and see the physio. And when I went back to her, she saw a significant change. And turns out that she actually was a Christian also. And when she tested every aspect of my mobility and my strength, everything was right up at the very top. There was no discrepancy even in my wrist or my grip with the dominant hands and things like that. And so she was fairly confident to be able to sign me off as miraculous recovery.
It's amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And there are miracles in the house, and Jesus can change your life. And you're going to sing for us. Tell us a wee bit about that song that you're going to sing.
Okay, so it's a song called Clean that was by Natalie Grant, and it speaks about how God sees us in comparison to how we see us and even our situations. And it speaks about how we can see shattered and broken, but actually what God sees is something very different, and he sees the whole picture, and he can make something beautiful out of that. And, you know, so I would just encourage anybody watching this, you know, regardless of what your situation might be, whether that you are struggling with a physical illness, or whether you are struggling with depression or difficult family circumstances or in your life, regardless of what you face in your situations, that even though that it may seem hopeless to you, God sees something very different. And if we just give our yes to God and give our lives over to him and trust him with it, that he can make something very different of it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rhiannon. Let's listen to Rhiannon singing Clean.
I see shattered, you see whole. I see broken, but you see beautiful, and you're helping me to believe, and you're restoring me piece by piece. There's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy. I am clean. There's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy. I am clean. What was dead now lives again. My heart's beating, it's beating inside my chest. And oh, I'm coming alive with joy and destiny. Oh, 'cause you're restoring me piece by piece. There's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy, and I am clean.
Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John. He left Judea and departed again for Galilee, and he had to pass through Samaria. So he came to a town of Samaria called Sychar, near the fields that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. So Jesus, wearied as he was from his journey, was sitting beside the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman?" For the Jews had no dealings with Samaritans. Jesus asked her, "If you knew the gift of God, and who is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water from? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock." Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water." Jesus said to her, "Go call your husband and come here." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right. I'm saying I have no husband. You are right in saying that you have no husband. For you have 5 husbands, and the one you are with now is not your husband. What you have said is true." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem, in the place where people ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for our salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming, and is now here, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he will tell us all things." Jesus said to her, "I who speak to you am he."
Well, thanks, Cara, for reading probably what is one of my favourite stories in the Gospel, this woman at the well. And today I want to talk to you about this woman and how her life was completely changed and revolutionised by an encounter with Jesus. You see, here's what we believe. Jesus can change your life if you let him. Jesus can change your life if you let him. In this story, we find a woman whose life is completely turned around, completely changed, not just accessorized or added to or some better things happening within it, but completely changed. She went from being an outcast to a community leader. She went from being a seeker to a finder, from being filled with shame to being completely set free, from being an absolute mess to getting that mess straightened out. She went from hiding away to standing strong, and so much more. You see, when we have encounters with Jesus, he changes our lives. Jesus can change your life if you let him. And I want to ask this question of this story. Why? What happened in this encounter that changed this woman's life? Well, I want to say to you that there was a number of things that she seen about Jesus. And I'm going to go for 3 today. And I want to say that not only can she see them, but hopefully today you can as well. So here's 3 things about Jesus that we see in this story. First of all, he sees. Jesus sees. You see, we find this woman in conversation with Jesus. But if you read it carefully, you'll notice that she's doing her utmost, her absolute best to keep him at arm's length. You know, we talk about social distancing today, but this is the classic art of emotional distancing. She's trying to keep him at arm's length So she talks about politics, she talks about religion, she talks about water, she talks about whatever is going on and whatever's there, everything other than the real stuff. She talks about so many things so that she doesn't have to keep it real. It's like she's become so guarded. She's become so protective of who she is and the stuff that she's carrying that she doesn't want anyone else to see it. She doesn't want to reveal the shame. And you say, where do you get shame from? Well, here's one of the things. We know some of her story, and I don't have time to go fully into it. But here's one thing that I want to point out from this story. This woman is out collecting water from the well in the Middle East midday. One of the things that we find striking about that is that most people would have been out in the morning, in the cool of the morning, whenever it wasn't so sweltering hot, to get the water for the day and to bring it. This tells us something about this lady. She was hiding away from people. She was keeping away from the normal group of women. And this is why we use words as outcast and shame, and why we're being told in this story through the events of it that she's not in the in-group, that she is hiding away from the normal group of people. And so it's like when she's talking to Jesus, she just doesn't want to get into it. She doesn't want another person knowing about her baggage. She doesn't want another person looking down their nose at her. And she doesn't want to feel ashamed as another person knows her story. So she keeps emotional distance. Try not to give anything away about the hurt, the pain, the torment, the confusion and the struggle that's going on inside of her. Then this happens. Jesus sees her. He sees everything. And we know this because of something that happens in the story. You see, and Jesus' way into it is that he's not wanting to expose her. He's not wanting to embarrass her, but he says, go and get your husband. It seems a bit of a strange thing to say, but she's, oh, no. And he says, I know you don't have a husband. Because you've had 5? Whoa, even in today's standard, that's a lot. She's had 5, and the man that you're with isn't your husband. I don't know whether you've ever seen the film Avatar, but there's a statement or a saying in that film that kind of runs throughout it as a bit of a theme. And it's, I see you. I see you. You see, what's being said is, I don't just see this, I see into you. I see beyond the surface, beyond the superficial. I know you. I get you. I see the real you. And to a much larger extent, this is what's happening as Jesus talks to this woman. He says, I see you. Now get this is just not about detail. Yes, he gives her detail. You've had 5 husbands, the man you're with. And wow, how would he know this? But there's something much deeper going on. This is not just about the list of details that Jesus could rhyme off about this woman's life. His eyes pierce beyond the superficial, beyond the surface, beyond the emotional distancing, and he sees right into her heart. He doesn't just see the detail, he sees the real. He sees her story, her struggle. He sees her pain. He says, I see you. And I want to say to you today, Jesus sees you. He sees you. And again, not just the detail, not just a list of facts and figures, but he sees you, he gets you, he knows you, the real you. See, in Revelation 2:13, there's a beautiful, just a beautiful sentence that Jesus says to a group of people who are going through a really rough time and their story is difficult. But here's what Jesus says to them. He says, I know where you live. It's like, I know your story. I know what's going on. I know the pattern of your life. I know it. I know where you live. I know what you're going through. I know the depths of your heart. I know. I see you. There's a beautiful story in the Bible, absolutely beautiful. Again, it's about another woman, and this time a woman called Hagar. And it's found in Genesis chapter 16. And through no fault of her own, Hagar finds herself in a really tough situation. She finds herself just at the end of herself. She finds herself, she's running away, and life is as difficult as it gets. But then she has this encounter with God, and it's just beautiful. And she actually names God after this encounter, El Roi, and it means the God who sees. And listen to the words that come out of her mouth. She says in Genesis 16:13, I have now seen the God who sees me. Oh man, and as I speak this and as I've prayed over this, here's my heart for each one of us today, that we wouldn't just know that God sees us, that we wouldn't just know, and that's a great thing to know, that he gets you, that he knows your pain and your suffering, he knows your story, he knows where you live, he knows what you're going through. But I would love us to take that a step further, that you would see the God who sees you, that you would see him, and that you would understand that that is who he is. The second thing that we see in this story is that Jesus saves. He saves. You see, this woman's life is in an absolute tailspin. She's lost. She's broken. She was in a pit and had no way of getting out of this. But her encounter with Jesus turns it all around. You see, the reality is that the world is full of people with this same story. It might be a different pit, but ultimately it's the same story. The world is full of people who are stuck in a pit. People who are stuck. And I considered some of these pits, and it might be a pit of mistakes and bad decisions, or a pit of alcohol addiction, or any other sort of addiction. It might be pits of depression and hopelessness, or fear and anxiety. It might be lostness and brokenness, meaningless and no future. And it's like no matter how much we claw at the pit, we can't get out of it because it's got loose sides and it just keeps crumbling. There's no way out. Many of us, the reality is, are just so used to the pit that we're kind of comfortable in the pit and we haven't realized that we're in a pit for a long time. Some people try frantically to get out of their pit, but as I said, the walls just keep caving in. And some people try to fill the pit with nice things, but here's the reality, it's still a pit. See, I mentioned a movie a while ago. There was a couple of movies out probably about 10 or 15 years ago, and I remember them being advertised. And I have to be honest, I never fully watched them because the premise of them totally freaked me out. So one was about a couple who went deep sea diving. I think they went snorkeling, but by the time they get back up, the boat had gone and they were left out in the ocean on their own. Whoa, that's already just making me tingle and full of fear. The thought of that is just frightening. And there was another one where these sort of 20-somethings had gone out on a boat. They were away out in the middle of the ocean again, and they all jumped in, but nobody had let down the ladder, and they were all trapped. I don't know about you, but that kind of stuff just freaks me right out. Well, imagine for a moment, and if we don't think about the pit, if we think, imagine you're in a dinghy in the middle of the ocean and you're lost and in need of rescue. And here's the reality, that anyone outside of Jesus, if you don't have a relationship with God, that's your reality. That's what the Bible says is your reality, that you're lost and in need of rescue. So imagine yourself, you're in this dinghy, you're just floating, you've got no way by yourself to get yourself to land or to rescue, you don't know where to go, you're in the dinghy. Now, there's lots of things that we could do to try and make life in the dinghy a little bit better, but ultimately you're still lost. You see, you could have your friends in the dinghy, but you're still lost. You could have some bottles of wine and a few cases of beer. It might numb it for a while, but you're still lost. Hey, imagine you could have the internet in the dinghy. Now just work with me here. And you could be on Facebook and you could be streaming Netflix and you could have 5,000 friends on Facebook or Instagram and likes to every post that you ever put up. But you're still in the dinghy, lost and in need of rescue. Imagine you could even have a therapist come to the dinghy and you could talk through all the stuff that you've been through. You could talk through all your problems and your issues. Here's the reality, and I believe in that stuff. I'm all up for that kind of thing. But the reality is, if you don't have Jesus, you're still in the dinghy. You're still lost and in need of rescue. You could have all of the people in your life, the stuff in your life, love in your life, But the reality is you're still in the dinghy, lost and in need of rescue. Many of you will have heard the story, the pit, and it just goes like this, that a man fell into a pit, and there were different people who came along and said different things to him. And he's in the pit, and a subjective person comes along and he says, really feel for you down there in the pit. An objective person comes along and they says, it's logical that someone would be down there in the pit. A Christian Scientist came along and said, no, you only think you're in the pit. A Pharisee, a really religious person, came along and said, only bad people fall into a pit. A mathematician calculated how he fell into the pit. A news reporter wanted the exclusive story on his pit. A fundamentalist said, you deserve this pit. Confucius said, if you had have listened to me, you would not be in that pit. Buddha said, your pit is only a state of mind. A realist said, that's a pit. A scientist calculated the pressure necessary to get him out of the pit. A geologist told him to appreciate the rock strata in the pit. A county inspector asked if he had a permit to dig the pit. The taxman came along and asked him had he paid his taxes on the pit. A professor gave him a lecture on the elementary principles of the pit. A health and wealth preacher just said, just confess that you're not in a pit. An optimist said, things could be worse. A pessimist said, things will get worse. But Jesus, seeing the man in the pit, reached out his hand, grabbed him and lifted him out of the pit. I'm reminded of Psalm 40, and it says that I waited patiently on the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of my pit, out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on a rock. He gave me a firm place to stand. And he filled my heart and my mouth with a new song, a song of praise to God. You see, we need to understand this, guys. Jesus doesn't just come to make our lives better. He's not just an annex onto our lives. He's not just an accessory in our lives. He's not just someone to come and fill up everything else that's going on within our lives. Jesus comes to rescue us. Jesus comes to save us. Jesus comes to those of us, and we're in the middle of the ocean in the dinghy, and he's not coming to sit in the dinghy with us and talk to us. He's coming to rescue us. He's coming to lift us out of it, to put us into his big cruise liner and take us to safety. That's what Jesus does. Jesus saves. Jesus rescues. And thirdly, Jesus satisfies. You see, this woman, she's been searching her entire life. Her entire life, she's been trying to fill the longing of her heart. And I imagine, and allow me just to use my imagination a little bit here, but I imagine her as a young girl, and it's like she knows, and we all have this longing for more, this longing for more in life, and trying to satisfy the desires of our hearts. And somehow in her growing up, she thought that she would find it in a man. And so she had a childhood sweetheart, and she thought, this is it. We'll get married. Our lives will just be perfect. This will just be wonderful. It'll be our happily ever after. But she's married for a while and realizes this is not all I thought it was cracked up to be. She still felt empty. And then she thought she'd found it. See, guy number 2, he was successful. He had money. He was able to provide the holidays. He was able to provide the big house and the nice car and all of the lavish things that surrounded it. He was able to go out and have nice meals and do nice things. And there was success and money and prosperity and all of that stuff around her life. But still, there was an emptiness within her heart. She still felt empty. But then she thought she'd found it. Guy number 3. He was exciting. He was impulsive. He had so many things going for him. He was spontaneous, fun. But still, when she put her head on the pillow at night, she felt empty. And so on and so on. Until she realized that she'd been down this road before and she just felt empty. And I just get the impression that she'd got to a point in life where she thought, this is my lot and this is the way it's going to be. I'm going to live with this thirst, with this hunger and with this longing. And now I just need to make the best of it. C.S. Lewis, the writer of the Chronicles of Narnia. He said something like this. He said that every single person has a God-shaped hole or void within our lives that can only be filled by God. In the Bible, in Ecclesiastes 3:11, it says this, that he, being God, has set eternity in the human heart. It's like God has created us for a relationship with him. He has created us for so much more than what we have right now. And there's something deep within our psyche, deep within our souls, deep within the fabric of our very being that calls out and knows that there's more. And so our problem is that we search in so many other ways. We don't search for it in God, and it's a God-shaped hole, but we search everywhere else other than God, because we know that to follow God means that we can't just do whatever we want and live whatever way we want, and we still want to do things our way and go things our way and still be the masters of our own destiny and of our own lives and our own decisions. And so what we do is we search in so many other things and so many other ways. We search down the road of relationships, and we think, if we can just find that person to fall in love with, if we can find that partner, that one who's going to love us as much as we love them, and we can set up home together, and that's just going to fill my life until that happens, and there's still the emptiness. And then we think, no, we need more relationships, we need kids, and we need family, and I need to give my kids everything that I could possibly give them. I'm going to pour my life into them. I'll drive them here, I'll drive them there, I'll do this, I'll provide that, I'll do everything that I still can, but still there's an emptiness within our hearts. And so we widen our social network, we widen our friendship list, we try to be friends with that person, the other person. We try to be popular on social media, many people, and there's this constant longing and searching, and we're trying to fill our lives with relationships more and more and more, and yet we're still empty, still hungry, still thirsty. Many of us try it through recreation. And it's like, okay, so I live to have fun. It's going to be work. I'm going to work so that I can fund some fun. Or even for some people, work is their fun. Work is the thing that they connect into. Work is that thing that they think, right, I need success. I need to keep on going, to keep building, to be the top in my field. And there's absolutely nothing wrong, by the way, with these things. But when we're trying to use them to fill the void, they're useless. They're not going to do the job. It's like trying to breathe underwater. There's nothing wrong with water, but we can't breathe it. It doesn't work. It doesn't function within our lives. It's a God-shaped void. And so it's like recreation. We're gonna I just need another holiday, or I just need another this, or I just need fun, and the problem with some of that at times actually is that, we're gonna live for a wine o'clock. It's gonna be wine o'clock, but eventually wine o'clock becomes every hour in the day, and we're drinking too much, and we're filling our lives with stuff that just, and we know the story. Or it's, do you know what? That was fun for a while, but my fun's dissipated, so I need to go from having a couple of beers when I'm out with the lads to maybe dropping a few pills. And it's like, how do I fill? How do I fill? How do I fill? And nothing satisfies. Here's the reality, guys. For some people, it's religion. For some people, they try to fill their lives by going to church and ticking off the do's and the don'ts, and here's what I need to be, and if I dress right and look right and act right, and if I do the whole religious thing, and whenever I say religious, I mean void or away from a relationship with God, that it's just the form, it's just the religiosity, it's just all of that stuff. But we still find ourselves empty if that's all we're doing. Why? Because of that God-shaped void within our hearts. Only He can fill and satisfy. We've been created for a relationship with the living God. Outside of that, this heart that has eternity within it will always long for more. And you see, that's what this conversation in this story is all about. Jesus says to her, and they're talking about water, but Jesus just so brilliantly turns it. And He says, those who drink from me will never thirst again. What's He saying? He's saying, I satisfy. Psalm 34 verse 8 says this, taste and see that the Lord is good. So as I come to a close today, let me remind you of this. Jesus can change your life if you let him. Jesus can change your life if you let him. You see, it happened for this woman. It's happened for millions of people around the world. It's happened for so many people watching this broadcast right now. It's happened for me, and it can happen for you. Jesus can change your life if you let him. And today our prayer is this, that you will know that he sees. That he sees your story. He sees the real you. He sees what's going on in your life. He sees through the superficial and the surface. He gets you. He sees you. But guys, we would love it, not just that you would know that, but that you would also see the God who sees you. That you would see him. I would love it today if you would see him. And if you would know not only that he sees, but he saves. May you know today that he can pull you out of your pit. That he can rescue you from your dinghy where you're lost and in need of rescue. He can rescue you. But again, you need to take his hand. It's not just in the knowing, it's in the doing and the responding. You need to take his hand. And may you know today that he satisfies. That he's the only one who can satisfy the longing of your hearts. Today, will you taste and see that the Lord is good? We're going to have a song now by absolutely fantastic singer Alex Robb, a part of our church in Coastlands. And Alex is going to sing a song called Come As You Are. You see, there's so many people in life and they think they need to tidy themselves up. They need to have the perfect set of circumstances in order to get and come to Jesus. But this song just says an incredible truth, that Jesus invites you to come as you are. And you can come today. You can come and see the one who sees. You can take hold of his hand and know his rescue and his salvation. You today can taste and see and know that he is good and be satisfied. You can know that. Come as you are.
Come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken hearted, let rescue begin. Come find your mercy, sinner come near. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh wanderer, come home, you're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are. There's hope for the hopeless and all those who've strayed. Come sit at the table. Come taste the grace, there's rest for the weary, a rest that endures. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't cure. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. There's joy for the morning. Sinner, be still. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh wanderer, come home. You're lost too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart. Come as you are. Come as you are. Come as you are. Come as you are.
What an amazing thing that we can come to Jesus just as we are. We come just as we are because we realise through Pastor Ali's message this morning that Jesus already knows us. Jesus already knows the circumstances of our lives. What an amazing thought that even the mess that we make of our own lives, Jesus comes to rescue us. Jesus comes to save us. More than that, Jesus gives us satisfaction. He satisfies every desire of our humanity, of our being, and through Him, through His death on the cross, all of this is available for us today. Maybe something in the message today has prompted you to think differently. Maybe something in the message today makes you realize that you need this Jesus in your life. That can happen for you today. You only need to reach out to Jesus, and we would love to help you to do that. You might begin by doing that by praying this simple prayer. Let me lead you in a simple prayer that just says, God, I want to give my life to you through Jesus. But please bow your head. If that's how you feel today, bow your head and let me pray and lead you in a short prayer. You pray this after me. Loving God and Heavenly Father, I thank you that you sent your Son to save me. I thank you that Jesus, you died on a cross to cleanse me from all sinfulness. I offer my life to you, Father God, through Jesus. I pray right now that you would receive me as your child, that you would fill me with your Holy Spirit, forgive my sins, and help me to live the rest of my life for you. In Jesus' name, amen. If you have prayed that prayer, please get in touch with us on Coastlands website. Please get in touch with us through Facebook or any other social media platform. We would love to help you kickstart your journey with Jesus. So do get in touch with us. Coastlands Church, do get in touch with us also. Please keep us informed of anything that's happening. If you need Pastor Alistair or I, we're only a phone call away. Also, Coastlands Church, do remember our Zoom quiz tonight, a time of fun, a time of fellowship and friendship together. We'll look forward to seeing some of you, many of you hopefully, tonight on our Zoom quiz. And please stay safe. Have a great week, and we will see you soon. Bless you.
Everyone needs compassion, love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness
Savior, the hope of nations. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered